That morning, Jimmy, my 20-something nephew, sat quietly beside me in the old car as we drove toward the mountains. No radio, no small talk, just early wind breezing through the window and a young man full of silent questions. "Uncle, is it possible to help someone too much, to the point where you become a burden to them? Why is it that when you give your whole heart to lift someone up, they end up pushing you away?" I listened but didn't answer, because I knew some questions don't need advice. They need space, and someone mindful enough to help them ripen. That's why we were heading here, to a small temple tucked behind a bamboo grove, where I once met Venerable Thay Vien Minh, a 70-something monk known not just for his wisdom, but for the way he taught the Dharma, like storytelling over morning tea. When we arrived, Thay was seated under the porch, gently picking up fallen leaves and placing them in a bamboo basket. Jimmy bowed respectfully. I stayed silent, sitting on the steps, just a supporting character in this younger man's unfolding inner journey. After a long pause, Jimmy finally asked, "Thay, what if you sincerely want to help someone, you give everything you can, and they still don't understand, maybe even reject you? Does that mean you were wrong?" Thay looked up slowly. A breeze passed, scattering leaves across the mossy steps. Then, in a voice as soft as an evening bell, he replied, "Even the Buddha once tried to help someone who never understood. Not until he was lying on his deathbed did he say, 'Now I see, I was wrong.'" Jimmy's eyes widened. Even I, having heard that story before, felt something inside me shift. But the Buddha still loved him, they continued, still waited, still had compassion, even when that person never appreciated it. Helping others isn't about being thanked, it's about not losing your own kind heart. They smiled gently, then handed Jimmy a steaming cup of ginger tea. It was bitter but warm, and in that moment, I knew this conversation wasn't just healing for Jimmy, it was an open door for anyone who's ever been hurt by kindness, gone unreturned. After a moment of silence, Thay took another sip of tea and began to speak. Long ago, the Buddha had a cousin named Devadatta. They grew up together. They even ordained at the same time. Jimmy nodded like a curious student. Devadatta was bright, hard-working, and well-liked in the beginning, but envy crept in. Seeing how revered the Buddha was, he thought, "Why not me? I could be Buddha, maybe even better than him." They paused, giving Jimmy space to picture it. So Devadatta became jealous. He tried to steal followers. He even plotted to harm the Buddha, but the Buddha never hated him. He still cared for Devadatta, still silently prayed for his awakening. Even in the face of betrayal, the Buddha told his disciples, "Do not cultivate hatred." Jimmy frowned. But why endure that? Why not walk away from someone like that from the start? They smiled gently, because true compassion doesn't require reciprocity. It's part of the awakened heart. Then, with a more solemn tone, he said, "Devadatta never truly understood. Not until he was near death did he say, 'From this moment on, I seek refuge in the Buddha.' But by then, it was too late to undo the harm." Jimmy remained silent. Doubt lingered in his eyes, but something was moving beneath the surface. "You see," they continued, "sometimes we give everything our time, our love, and the other person still doesn't change. That's not your failure. Every soul awakens at its own pace. And then Thay said something that seemed to speak directly to Jimmy's heart, and maybe to yours too. Being kind doesn't mean you'll succeed in saving others. It just means you won't extinguish your own light, even when the world around you turns dark. Another breeze swept through the bamboo, a few dry leaves landing softly, like quiet sighs. Jimmy looked up toward the sunlight filtering through the trees, the first glimpse of insight shining through. The car rolled slowly along a quiet country road. Birch trees shimmered gently in the afternoon sun. Jimmy hadn't spoken since we left the temple. A breeze played with his hair. In his eyes, I saw a soft haze, something inside him cracking, but not yet falling apart. I spoke quietly. "Jimmy, can I tell you a story?" He nodded. Years ago, I had a close friend. When his business collapsed, everyone left him, but I stayed. I lent him money, let him stay in my home, even dropped a major project just to help him start over. I paused, remembering the younger version of myself. But one day, when things were going well for him again, I heard from others that he'd told people I only helped to control him, that I was the one who used him. Jimmy's eyes widened. I gave a sad smile. I was stunned. I kept asking, did I do too much? Was my kindness a mistake? But then one rainy night, you realized I wasn't wrong for helping. My only mistake was expecting gratitude, and expectations always lead to pain. Jimmy stayed silent. I didn't rush. Some seeds need quiet soil to sprout. Finally, he whispered, "I think I'm like you." I kept hoping my friend would recognize it, appreciate it, maybe even thank me. But now, I get it. Doing the right thing is enough. I gently squeezed his shoulder. The autumn breeze carried the scent of earth and fallen leaves, as if time itself was nodding in agreement. Jimmy closed his eyes. His lips moved softly, maybe a quiet forgiveness, maybe a goodbye to an old wound. Then he looked at me. "So, if someone doesn't accept your help, should you stop offering it?" Before I could answer, Thay's warm voice echoed in my memory. "You help not to be praised, not to be owed, but to keep your own heart clear. But remember, if helping someone drains you or causes you to lose respect for yourself, that is not true compassion. True compassion must come with wisdom to know when to continue and when to let go." His words lingered like a drop of dew on an autumn leaf. Jimmy nodded. His eyes no longer clouded. Something had been lifted from his chest. He looked lighter. The car left the village road and rejoined the open highway. Afternoon wind danced across the windshield. Golden leaves fluttered like small blessings. I glanced over at Jimmy, still sitting, but something in his posture had shifted. More settled, more still, more at peace. He suddenly smiled softly, like an inner vow. "If my friend ever comes back, I think I'd still help him, but I won't need him to understand me, and I won't let myself get hurt again." I smiled, too grateful, like someone watching a lotus bloom after a long winter. That, Jimmy, is compassionate wisdom, the greatest lesson the Buddha ever taught. I told him the story again of how the Buddha showed compassion to Devadatta. Even after betrayal, the Buddha still cared. But he never let that compassion cloud his judgment. He kept his boundaries. He stayed awake. "Compassion," I said, doesn't mean letting others walk over you. It means not letting your heart freeze over in this messy world. Jimmy listened. His eyes looked outward, but his heart, I knew it had returned. In that silence, I said one last thing, a message for both of us, and for anyone who's ever been hurt by love rejected. Helping someone is a gift you offer them, but forgiving yourself, that's the real gift. Dear friend, if you've ever given your all to someone and were met with silence or dismissal, if you've ever been hurt because your kindness wasn't seen, or worse, was misunderstood, remember the Buddha's teaching. Help others not because of their reaction, but because of your own inner clarity. And if one day that person returns, be compassionate enough to open the door, but wise enough to protect your peace, because compassion isn't for letting others hurt you. It's to keep your own heart from freezing in a cold world. Let's walk this path of mindful living together, through stories, through quiet breaths, through moments of insight in ordinary days. Hit subscribe, not just to hear new stories, but to come home to yourself in mindfulness and in strength. Thank you for staying till the end of this video. I'll see you in the next one, where every step is a gentle greeting to life.